The night sky over the Atlantic Ocean was calm and dark. The waves moved softly under a full moon that shone like silver on the surface. Everything seemed peaceful until a strange vibration ran through the water. It was so deep and heavy that even the whales stopped singing. The tremor didn't come from an earthquake or a storm. It came from deep below, from the heart of the planet itself. Far away, in a small laboratory hidden under Iceland's frozen mountains, Dr. Elena Ward was awake long past midnight. Her team of geologists had been studying unusual energy readings from the Earth's core for months. The data made no sense. The temperature in certain zones of the inner core had dropped for the first time in human history. The Earth's heart was cooling when it should have been burning hotter. Elena stared at her monitor as the readings spiked again. The sensors picked up rhythmic pulses like a heartbeat. But this pulse wasn't random. It repeated in a pattern that almost felt intentional. She frowned and whispered to herself, "It's speaking." Her assistant, Ravi, looked up from his desk. "Did you say speaking?" She nodded slowly. "Look at the intervals. They're too perfect to be natural." Ravi checked the data and froze. If this is real, then something down there knows we're listening. Thousands of kilometers away, satellites started malfunctioning one by one. Communication arrays blinked out like dying stars. The ground stations tried to reboot them, but the signals kept disappearing. At 2:47 a.m. Universal Time Coordinated, every seismograph on the planet recorded the same pulse, a long deep wave that traveled through rock and metal like a whisper of anger. In the morning, news networks across the world went into panic. Scientists called it the largest seismic event in history, yet no earthquakes were reported. Buildings didn't fall, oceans didn't rise, but every human on Earth felt it in some way. Some described a ringing in their ears, others a feeling of dread, like the planet itself had taken a breath after a long silence. In Washington, a secret emergency meeting took place inside the Pentagon. General Marcus Hale stared at the live feed from Iceland's monitoring base. The pulse signal was repeating again, stronger this time. The technicians had translated the pattern into sound. It wasn't random noise, it was a series of tones and breaks, like coded language. Hale asked Elena through the screen, "Doctor, are you telling me the Earth is trying to communicate?" Elena hesitated. "Not communicate, General. Warn." The room went silent. As the day passed, strange phenomena began across the globe. Magnetic fields shifted without warning. Compasses spun wildly. Birds crashed into buildings. The northern lights spread further south than ever before, glowing red instead of green. People in cities looked up at the sky in fear as power grids flickered off. In less than 12 hours, the planet had entered an unknown phase of activity. Deep beneath Iceland, Elena's sensors detected a new pulse. It was faster and more aggressive, like a message filled with fury. She began recording the pattern. When she converted the vibration into a waveform, she froze. The pattern looked almost identical to a human voice graph. Something inside the Earth was indeed trying to speak, and the tone was rising. Ravi whispered, "It sounds angry." Elena replied, "Maybe it should be." She looked at the timeline of human activity over the last century. Pollution, deforestation, drilling deep into the crust, atomic tests. All of it damaging the planet's balance. "Maybe we've been hurting it for too long," she said quietly. Then, suddenly, all the lights went out in the facility. Backup generators failed. In the darkness, the walls started to shake, not from an earthquake but from pressure, as if the mountain itself was breathing. A deep rumble echoed through the halls. It was not random. It was slow, deliberate, and heavy. Elena grabbed the emergency radio, but static filled the line. A voice came through for a split second, not human, but still a voice. The sound vibrated through her chest like a thunderstorm. Only one word came through clearly, and it made her blood run cold. "Vengeance." Ravi looked at her, pale and trembling. "Did you hear that?" Before she could answer, a section of the wall cracked, glowing faintly red from within the stone. Molten light leaked through as the floor beneath them shuddered. The Earth wasn't just shaking. It was moving, changing shape. The data showed that the outer core's magnetic field was reversing at impossible speed. All over the world, compasses stopped working. Planes lost control. The oceans began to swell in strange circular patterns. It was as if the planet was preparing for something massive. Elena stumbled toward the console and shouted, "Record everything! We might be the only ones who can warn them." But deep inside, she knew this wasn't something humanity could stop. The planet had been silent for billions of years, patient through all their damage and greed. Now it had decided to speak, and its first word was a promise of retribution. As the ground cracked open beneath the laboratory, Elena realized the truth. Earth wasn't dying, it was waking up. Smoke filled the broken tunnels under the Icelandic mountain. Elena and Ravi crawled out from under fallen metal beams. The floor burned hot, and the air smelled of ash. The laboratory was gone. All the computers, the data, everything had turned into melted glass and twisted wires. The only thing left working was a small portable recorder clutched in Elena's hand. It still blinked red, recording the pulse that shook the world. Ravi coughed and looked toward the cracked rock wall glowing red like lava veins. "We need to get out before this whole mountain collapses." Elena nodded. The sound was everywhere now, a deep, endless hum rising from beneath the earth. It wasn't random noise anymore. It had rhythm. It pulsed like a living creature breathing in anger. They climbed through the debris, following faint emergency lights that flickered on and off. Outside, the Icelandic night was gone. The sky had turned dark red, glowing with strange patterns of lightning that moved in circles. The ground trembled every few seconds. In the distance, volcanoes that had been dormant for centuries erupted one after another, sending rivers of fire into the snow. Ravi stared at the horizon. "It's like the planet is tearing itself apart." Elena whispered, "No. It's changing shape. It's resetting." Thousands of kilometers away, cities around the world fell into chaos. In New York, the ground cracked open near the harbor, and a column of steam shot into the air like a geyser. In Tokyo, skyscrapers swayed as magnetic interference shut down every electronic device. In Africa, the Sahara began to rumble as sandstorms reached record heights, forming strange circular patterns visible from space. Everywhere, people felt the same thing, a vibration inside their bones, like a heartbeat they didn't understand. At the Pentagon, General Marcus Hale stood before a wall of screens filled with global news. "What are we dealing with?" he demanded. A scientist answered, "It's not just seismic activity. The magnetic poles are reversing in real time. That should take thousands of years, but it's happening in hours." Hale clenched his jaw. "Can we stop it?" "No, sir. It's like the planet is rejecting everything we've built on it." In the middle of the chaos, a strange signal appeared on radio networks. It wasn't human, but it carried structure, repeated tones, spaced evenly. NASA scientists tried to decode it. When they translated the frequencies into English phonetics, 3 words appeared on the screen: "Your time ends." The message repeated again and again across all frequencies. No one knew how it was being transmitted. Back in Iceland, Elena and Ravi reached a ridge overlooking the fiery landscape. Rivers of lava cut through snow fields, sending clouds of steam into the sky. She turned on the recorder again, watching the signal wave on the screen. The pattern was faster now, urgent, furious. "Elena," Ravi said, trembling. "If it's angry at us, if this really is the Earth itself, what can we possibly do?" Elena looked at him with tired eyes. "We can listen. Maybe it's not just vengeance. Maybe it's warning us before something worse happens." Far beneath them, deep in the core, something massive shifted. The molten iron spun faster, creating magnetic storms that ripped through the mantle. Under the Pacific Ocean, a new fissure opened, glowing blue instead of red. Submarines sent to investigate reported strange metallic shapes rising through the cracks, objects that didn't look natural. Some believed they were ancient structures, maybe remnants of a forgotten civilization buried when the planet first formed. The world governments tried to hide the discovery, but video leaked online. It showed a glowing metallic tower rising slowly from the ocean floor, covered in symbols that looked like a mix of human language and something older. People began to panic. Religious leaders called it the end of days. Scientists argued it might be proof that intelligent life existed before humanity, deep inside the planet. Elena watched the footage on a cracked tablet. Her voice was weak but steady. It's not the end. It's the beginning of something we were never supposed to see. Ravi looked confused. You mean there was life before us? She nodded. What if the Earth remembers them, and now it remembers what we've done? Suddenly, the ground shook again, stronger than before. From the horizon, a deep rumbling wave rolled toward them. The ridge cracked, throwing them to the ground. When they looked up, they saw something impossible. The sky above them tore open with light, as if the atmosphere itself was reacting. Red lightning formed symbols that matched the ones on the ocean tower. The symbols pulsed, and every seismograph on the planet recorded a single massive signal. The word repeated across every machine, every satellite, every device that could receive a signal. Awaken! In that moment, all volcanoes around the world erupted together. The night turned to fire. Elena screamed over the roaring wind. It's not just waking up, it's calling something. Ravi shouted. Calling what? She looked toward the horizon where the ocean boiled and the land cracked open. Whatever lived here before us. They ran as the mountain behind them exploded, sending a wave of molten rock across the frozen valley. The sound of the Earth's heartbeat grew louder, faster, like a war drum echoing through the planet's veins. For the first time in history, humanity realized they were not rulers of Earth, they were guests. And their host had finally decided it was time to end the stay. The sun rose red and dim behind a thick wall of ash. Across the world, cities looked like shadows under a dying sky. The air smelled of smoke and metal. Sirens screamed through empty streets as people tried to escape collapsing buildings. Power grids were dead, satellites were gone, and the internet had fallen silent. Humanity was cut off, blind, and terrified. Inside an underground bunker near Washington, General Marcus Hale stood before a flickering holographic map of Earth. It showed a web of red lines spreading from the planet's core to every continent. Those are fault lines, said a scientist beside him, but they're moving. The crust is shifting faster than any recorded geological event. Hale asked, where will it end? The scientist's face was pale. At the core, sir. Whatever is happening, it's coming from there. Meanwhile, deep beneath Iceland, Elena and Ravi had found shelter in an abandoned geothermal tunnel. They had little food, no communication, and only one working recorder left. The pulse signal was stronger now, echoing through the tunnel walls like a heartbeat. Elena replayed it again and again, trying to decode the pattern. Ravi leaned against the wall. If this keeps going, there'll be nothing left to save. Why won't it stop? Elena looked tired but determined. Because it's not done talking. Suddenly, the recorder screen flickered, showing a strange sequence of waves. Elena frowned. That's new. She translated the pattern into audio, and a deep rumbling voice filled the air, not like any human language, but somehow understandable. It said, "Children of the surface, you were warned." Ravi's eyes widened. Did it just speak to us? Elena nodded slowly. It's intelligent. It's aware of us. The voice continued, slower this time. We gave you balance. You gave us wounds. The cycle must end. Then the signal stopped. Elena felt cold. She realized this was not a natural reaction of the planet. It was the return of something ancient, something buried deep when the world was young. Maybe it wasn't the Earth itself, but a consciousness within it, an entity that had been sleeping inside the molten core for billions of years. Back in Washington, the world's remaining leaders argued inside the bunker. Some wanted to use nuclear weapons to try and close the new fissures. Others said it would make things worse. Hale slammed his fist on the table. We don't even know what we're fighting. A voice from the back of the room said, "It's not something we can fight." Everyone turned to see Dr. Lian Zhou, a seismologist from China, standing with a tablet full of strange readings. The magnetic fields are shaping patterns like neural activity. The planet is thinking, reacting, remembering. Remembering what? Hale asked. She looked at him. A time before us. Across the Pacific Ocean, strange metallic towers continued to rise from the ocean floor. They weren't natural formations, they were structures, glowing with light from deep within. Underwater drones sent to investigate disappeared within minutes. The few videos that came back showed brief flashes of movement, giant shapes swimming through molten water, glowing like liquid fire. People began calling them the Core Guardians. News spread through the remaining radio channels. Humanity now knew something lived below them, something that had survived through the planet's birth and waited in silence until now. In Iceland, Elena replayed the voice again. She noticed small differences in the sound each time, like it was learning how to speak clearer. She tried sending back a signal through the recorder, using basic tones. "We understand," she said quietly. "We are sorry." For a few seconds, there was no response. Then the tunnel began to shake lightly. The recorder lit up again, and a single word formed on the screen. "Too late." Ravi backed away. "What does it mean? Is it going to destroy everything?" Elena stared at the glowing device. "It's not destruction. It's cleansing. It's removing us, like a virus from its body." At that exact moment, deep under the ocean, the largest tower cracked open. From inside came a massive sphere of light that rose toward the surface. It broke through the waves, shining brighter than the sun. Satellites that still functioned captured the image before being burned out by radiation. The object hovered above the ocean, sending energy waves around the planet. For the first time in history, the magnetic field of Earth became visible to the human eye, a glowing network of blue and red lines stretching across the sky. Elena and Ravi climbed to the surface and looked up. The entire sky was alive with light. "It's beautiful," Ravi whispered. Elena nodded. "It's judgment." Across the world, humanity stood still. No one fought, no one ran. The pulse filled the air, shaking buildings and oceans alike. It was not the sound of destruction, it was the sound of awakening. Then, from the sky, the same voice that spoke to Elena echoed across every radio, every mind, every piece of metal on Earth. "Your kind burned our skin, poisoned our breath, broke our bones. But we waited. We let you grow. Now we rise again." The sphere of light expanded, and every volcano, every fault line responded to it. The planet itself moved with purpose, like a living being reclaiming control. Elena looked at the recorder one last time. Its light flickered weakly, and she whispered, "If anyone finds this, remember that the Earth once spoke. And it was angry." As the horizon glowed with the light of molten fire and the sea boiled under the rising towers, humanity's fate hung between survival and extinction. And deep within the core, the ancient voice whispered again, softer this time, almost like sorrow. "Vengeance is never blind. It is memory." The light that covered the planet slowly faded, leaving behind a world that no longer looked the same. Mountains had shifted. Oceans had changed their shape. Entire continents moved a few miles apart. The sky still glowed faintly red, like the planet's blood was flowing near the surface. In what was left of the Pentagon's command center, General Marcus Hale stood beside the last few surviving world leaders. The room was cold and filled with the sound of static. Every communication line was down except one, an emergency channel connecting them to a few science outposts still alive underground. Dr. Elena Ward's voice came through the static. "This is Ward from Iceland. Is anyone receiving me?" Hale's eyes widened. "Doctor, thank God. We thought you were dead." "I almost was," she replied. "Listen carefully. The signal from the core is not random. It's conscious. It's angry, but it's not unstoppable. I think it's still listening." The room went silent. The idea that the planet itself, or something inside it, was listening made everyone uneasy. Hale said, "If it's listening, maybe we can talk to it." "How?" Elena took a deep breath. "Through resonance. The Earth responds to vibration. If we create a strong enough harmonic signal, we might be able to send a message back. But we'll need power. Massive power." Hale nodded. "You'll have it. What do you need?" "Every satellite dish, every radio tower, every remaining nuclear reactor you can control. We need to make the planet hear us all at once." Within hours, the survivors across the globe began working together. It was the first time in centuries that humanity acted as one species with one goal. Soldiers guarded scientists, engineers rebuilt generators, and pilots flew across dangerous skies to deliver power cells. For the first time since the disaster began, there was unity. In Iceland, Elena and Ravi set up their equipment inside a massive cave filled with geothermal vents. The heat made the air shimmer, and the ground hummed with energy. They connected the last working reactor core to a frequency amplifier. Ravi asked, "Are you sure this will work? If we get it wrong, we might make it angrier." Elena looked at him with tired eyes. "We don't have another choice. We either speak or vanish." Back in Washington, Hale gave the command. "All systems, synchronize global frequency in 3, 2, 1. Begin transmission." Across the planet, thousands of transmitters powered up at once. A deep vibration filled the air, reaching into the ground and spreading through rock, water, and metal. The world itself seemed to hum in response. Elena closed her eyes and whispered into the microphone. "We are sorry. We hurt you without knowing. We poisoned your air, your water, your veins. We thought we ruled this world, but we were only guests. Please, let us fix what we broke." For a moment, there was silence. Then, a low sound came from below, so deep it made the ground tremble. The equipment shook violently, lights flickering. Ravi grabbed the console. "It's responding." On every monitor, a signal appeared, wave patterns shifting into recognizable words. The voice was slower now, heavy but calmer. "You speak, yet you never listened. Why now?" Elena answered softly, "Because now we understand fear. We understand loss. Please give us a chance." The ground rumbled again. The voice returned, more distant. "The core remembers everything. The fire beneath remembers when your kind was born from the ash. You forgot your place. You forgot balance. Can you restore it?" Elena's voice cracked. "We can try. Teach us." A long silence followed. Then the entire cave lit up with a red glow as the molten walls pulsed like a heartbeat. The voice said one word, "Prove." Ravi looked around in panic. "What does it mean?" "Prove what?" Elena stared at the recorder. "It wants proof we can change." Above them, the earth began to quiet. Volcanoes slowed their eruptions. The magnetic storms weakened. The planet was still unstable, but it had stopped attacking. Humanity had bought time, but not safety. In the following hours, the global signal spread hope. People came out of hiding, watching the calm sky. Survivors built fires and used old radios to hear the news. Earth had paused its vengeance. But far beneath the surface, in the core, something else moved. A new signal appeared on Elena's recorder, different from the first. This one was sharper, colder, and not from the same source. She replayed it and frowned. "This isn't the same voice." Ravi leaned closer. "Then who is it?" The answer came a second later when the new voice echoed through the speakers. "We were buried with the fire. You woke us." Elena's face went pale. The signal wasn't from the planet, it was from within it. Another presence had awakened during the chaos. The voice continued, deep and echoing. "The earth is not one. It is many. And not all forgive." Before Elena could respond, the ground split open beside the cave, revealing a column of molten light twisting upward. Inside it moved shapes, like shadows with burning eyes. They looked almost human but made entirely of light and stone. Ravi stepped back, whispering, "What are they?" Elena could barely breathe. "The first ones. Maybe the ones who ruled before us." The figures spoke again, not with mouths but through vibration, shaking the air and rock alike. The planet spoke of vengeance. "We bring its will." The world had survived one awakening, but now a second voice had risen, colder, older, and far less patient. And humanity realized the truth. The Earth had not just woken up. It had called its guardians back. The molten light rose higher from the crack in the cave, glowing like a living flame. Shapes moved inside it, tall and heavy, made of rock, crystal, and fire. Their eyes burned white, their bodies shifted like lava that refused to cool. When they spoke, the air trembled. Elena and Ravi crouched behind a boulder, watching in silent terror. The heat was unbearable. The ground under their feet felt alive. One of the beings stepped forward, each movement slow and deliberate. The sound of its steps was like thunder trapped inside the earth. "We are the first flame," the voice said. "We were the breath before your kind learned to walk. The planet remembers us, and we remember what you have done." Elena forced herself to stand. Her voice shook. "We never meant to harm this world. Please, let us make peace." The creature turned its glowing head toward her. "Peace is earned in balance. Balance has been lost. You dug into the veins of the earth and fed on its blood. You burned its skin. You poisoned its air. Tell us, human, how will you undo what cannot be undone?" Elena couldn't answer. She looked at the walls of the cave, at the molten rivers running like tears. "We can rebuild. We can heal it. Just give us time." The creature tilted its head. "Time is the one thing you have wasted the most." Before she could reply, the cave shook violently. More fissures opened, and from each one rose another guardian. There were dozens now, glowing red and gold, their shapes shifting between solid and liquid. They moved toward the surface, climbing with hands that melted stone. Ravi shouted over the noise, "We have to get out before they bring the mountain down." They ran through the tunnels as explosions of molten rock chased them. When they finally reached the surface, the sky was no longer red, it was orange and black, filled with ash and lightning. The guardians were emerging from the ground across the landscape. From Iceland to the Himalayas, from the Pacific floor to the deserts, they rose in silence, towering over mountains and cities. The world watched in horror. Satellites captured images of dozens of glowing giants walking across continents. Their footsteps cracked the crust. Each step sent tremors that traveled across oceans. But they didn't destroy everything in their path. They were searching. In the ruins of New York, a single guardian stopped near the Statue of Liberty. It bent down, its glowing eyes scanning the broken city. People hiding in tunnels stared at it through cracks, too afraid to breathe. The guardian touched the ground, and the pavement melted into a pool of light. From it grew a single green sprout. Within seconds, grass began to cover the cracked roads. The watchers gasped. The creature wasn't only destroying, it was also creating. Elena, who saw the broadcast on a portable screen, whispered, "They're trying to restore balance. Destruction and creation together." Ravi frowned. "But how do we fit into that? Are they going to keep us alive?" "I don't know," she said. "Maybe they'll decide we're part of the disease or part of the cure." Across the world, the guardians began shaping the land. They cooled volcanoes, turned deserts green, and flooded ruined cities with clean water. But at the same time, they erased everything built by human hands. Skyscrapers, factories, dams, gone. They didn't attack people directly, but they erased all symbols of human dominance. General Hale watched from a bunker camera as a guardian walked through Washington, D.C. The creature passed the ruined monuments and stopped at the Capitol's remains. It touched the ground, and the building sank silently into the earth. Hale's voice was low. "They're rewriting the planet." A scientist nearby whispered, "They're giving it back to itself." Elena realized what was happening. The Guardians weren't here to kill humanity, they were resetting the balance. But if humans didn't adapt, they would still die. She sent another message through the global frequency, hoping the Guardians could hear. We understand now. We will live with the Earth, not above it. Please let us stay. For a long moment, there was no response. Then the ground beneath her feet warmed gently, and a low voice spoke through the soil itself. One chance. One cycle. Fail again, and you return to dust. Elena fell to her knees, tears in her eyes. Humanity had been given a second chance. But even as she felt relief, the ground trembled once more. The recorder in her pocket began to vibrate wildly. The display filled with strange symbols, different from before. A cold voice, not the Guardians, whispered. The balance must be perfect. Too much life brings death. Ravi stared at the screen. Who is that? Elena whispered. Another voice, deeper than the Guardians. A new pulse swept across the planet. The Guardians froze mid-motion, their glowing bodies dimming. The voice continued, we are the core itself. The planet must not only live, it must rest. You have awakened chaos. Now we decide what remains. Elena realized in horror that there were layers of consciousness within the Earth. The Guardians were just one part, the protectors. But something deeper, older, was now awake. In that moment, every volcano reignited, every ocean current changed direction. The Earth's heart began to slow its rhythm, as if preparing for something even greater than vengeance. Elena whispered, it's not over. It's just beginning again. The night sky turned completely black. No stars, no moon, just darkness that seemed alive. The world had gone silent except for one sound, a low heartbeat that pulsed from the center of the planet. It was slow, deep, and heavy, like the sound of an ancient giant breathing beneath the crust. Elena stood on the edge of a cliff, overlooking what used to be the Icelandic Valley. Now it was a massive glowing crater filled with molten rivers that formed strange symbols. Ravi watched the horizon as the ground moved like a living ocean. It feels like the whole planet is thinking, he said quietly. Elena nodded. It is. The core is awake. The Guardians stood motionless across the world, their bodies dimmed and silent. They were no longer moving, no longer shaping or destroying. They had frozen, waiting for something. The deeper voice that had spoken earlier, the true core, had taken control. In the Pentagon's underground bunker, General Hale listened to the scientists trying to explain what was happening. The core's temperature is dropping again, one said. It's withdrawing energy from the mantle. It's like it's preparing to reset the entire planet. Hale frowned. Reset? What does that mean? The scientist looked pale. It could mean extinction. Not just humans, everything. A full system restart. Hale clenched his fists. Then we stop it. But how do you stop a planet? Back in Iceland, Elena and Ravi worked desperately to send a signal again. The recorder had almost no power left. The core's energy waves made it hard to transmit anything. Still, Elena tried. This is Dr. Ward. You've made your point. We understand balance. But if you reset everything, even your guardians will vanish. There will be nothing left to protect. The response came not through the recorder but through the ground itself. The rocks vibrated under their feet, forming words like whispers made of thunder. Protection requires cleansing. Life begins again only after silence. Elena's heart sank. The core didn't see destruction as evil. To it, death was simply renewal. She turned to Ravi. If we can't convince it to stop, we have to survive the reset. Ravi frowned. How? There's nowhere safe. The crust itself will melt. Elena thought for a moment. Unless we go below it. They began searching for one of the old geothermal tunnels that connected to the magma chambers. It was dangerous, but it was their only chance. As they ran, the air shimmered, and they heard voices echoing across the valley. The Guardians had begun to move again, but differently this time. They weren't rebuilding or fighting. They were gathering. Dozens of them stood in a circle around the crater, their hands raised toward the sky. Light flowed from their chests into the ground, forming lines of glowing fire that connected them all. It looked like they were channeling energy toward the core. Ravi gasped. They're helping it reset. Elena shouted over the rumbling, they're loyal to the core, not to us. The crater began to collapse inward, revealing an enormous sphere of blinding light deep below. It pulsed once, and every Guardian stopped moving. The light grew brighter until the clouds above started burning away. The core was now visible, its energy rising through the crust. Across the planet, oceans boiled, mountains cracked, and winds turned violent. The atmosphere shimmered like glass. The world was about to erase itself. In the bunker, Hale gave one final order. If there's a chance to survive, take it. If not, record everything. Let whoever comes after know we tried. His voice broke as the lights flickered out. Back in Iceland, Elena and Ravi found the tunnel entrance half buried under rock. They crawled inside as the heat grew unbearable. The deeper they went, the more they felt the core's heartbeat shaking the walls. Elena held her recorder close and whispered, "If this is the end, then this message is for whoever comes next. We didn't protect our world, but maybe you can." The tunnel opened into a large cavern filled with molten light. In the center stood a single Guardian, smaller than the others. Its eyes glowed softly blue instead of white. When it saw them, it didn't attack. Instead, it lowered its head and spoke in a deep, calm tone. "You seek life, not power. Follow me." The Guardian turned and walked into the molten light. Without thinking, Elena and Ravi followed. The heat didn't burn them, it felt like stepping through a warm wind. They emerged into a strange chamber deep beneath the crust, where walls of crystal reflected light in every color. At the center was a sphere of pure energy, smaller than the core but connected to it by glowing lines. Elena stared in awe. "What is this place?" The Guardian replied, "The memory chamber. The core stores everything here, every sound, every life, every end." Ravi looked around. "Then maybe we can speak to it here." Elena nodded and placed her recorder on the ground. "If you can hear me, please, don't erase everything. Let us fix it. Let us remember you." The sphere pulsed, and a soft voice answered, not angry, not cold, but ancient and tired. "You remember now. That is enough." The light dimmed slightly. Outside, the violent shaking began to slow. Volcanoes cooled, winds stopped. The Guardians turned their heads toward the crater and bowed. The core's heartbeat steadied. Elena whispered, "Did it stop?" The Guardian's eyes dimmed. "It sleeps again. For now." Elena fell to her knees, exhausted and shaking. The world had survived. Barely. But before the Guardian faded into the molten light, it spoke one last time. "When the core wakes again, it will not be for vengeance. It will be for judgment. Be ready." The light vanished, leaving Elena and Ravi alone in the quiet heat of the chamber. Above them, the earth was healing, but deep below, its heart still glowed with power and memory. And somewhere in that silence, the core whispered a final word. "Remember." When the light faded, Elena and Ravi climbed out of the chamber and stepped into a changed world. The air was quiet, clean, and strangely light. The sky above was no longer red but soft silver, as if the earth had exhaled after holding its breath for centuries. Mountains that had been cracked now stood smooth again. Oceans shimmered calmly. The Guardians that once walked across the surface were gone. They had returned to the core, leaving behind strange glass statues shaped like human hands, signs of peace or warning, no one could tell. Elena looked around, still shaking from exhaustion. "Did we win?" she whispered. Ravi smiled weakly. "I don't think we won anything. I think we were forgiven." They began walking toward what used to be Reykjavik. The city was in ruins, but green shoots had already started to grow between the stones. Life was returning faster than they thought possible. Birds circled overhead. The wind carried a low hum, like the core's heartbeat, calm, steady, watching. Hours later, they found a working satellite receiver and managed to contact what remained of the world network. Static filled the air before a voice broke through. "Dr. Ward? Is that you? This is Control Station Delta. You're alive." Elena took a deep breath and replied, "Yes. We survived." The core stopped. For now. There was silence on the other end, then the man said softly, "General Hale didn't make it. Most of the command sites are gone. But survivors are gathering. The sky is clear. We can rebuild." Elena looked at Ravi, who was staring at the horizon. "Then let's make sure we don't repeat our mistakes," she said. Over the next few months, small human colonies began to connect again. Technology was damaged but not destroyed. Communication returned. People spoke less of weapons and more of harmony. They called it the Reset Era. The strange symbols left behind by the Guardians were found etched into mountains and sea beds. Scientists could not understand them at first. Later, they realized those shapes were not warnings, they were lessons. Each symbol represented an element of balance: fire, water, air, and life. Humanity began to study them, to learn from the core's message. Elena became the leader of a global project called the Memory Network, dedicated to recording everything the Earth had done and everything humanity had learned. She believed the core didn't want to destroy, it wanted to remember. One night, months after the event, Elena sat alone near the crater where it had all begun. The surface was now a deep lake glowing with faint blue light. The stars reflected on it perfectly. She turned on her recorder, her voice calm but emotional. "This is Dr. Elena Ward, last record of Phase 1. The core spoke through energy, through storms, through pain. But maybe it wasn't vengeance. Maybe it was sorrow. The Earth watched us harm it for centuries. When it finally spoke, it wasn't asking for justice, it was asking to be heard." She paused and touched the ground. It was warm and alive. Ravi joined her, holding a small shard of crystal he had taken from the memory chamber. "You think it will speak again?" he asked. Elena smiled slightly. "Yes. But next time, maybe it won't be out of anger." As they sat in silence, the blue water began to ripple softly. A faint vibration spread through the ground, not violent this time, gentle, almost like a sigh. The core's heartbeat echoed again, slow and peaceful. Across the world, strange phenomena began to appear. Plants grew faster. Oceans glowed faintly at night. Some said they could hear whispers in the wind, soft, rhythmic sounds that felt like a lullaby. The Earth was healing itself, and it was keeping watch. Years passed. Humanity rebuilt smarter, cleaner, quieter. The memory network grew into a global archive that connected every human and every discovery. Energy was drawn from geothermal veins instead of burning the sky. People began to live in tune with nature instead of fighting it. But the core never spoke again. Not with words. Its voice was now in every mountain, every wave, every heartbeat. Elena grew older, her hair turning silver. One morning, she stood again by the glowing lake. Children played nearby, laughing, unaware of the darkness that had once almost ended everything. She smiled, proud and peaceful. Ravi walked up beside her. "Do you ever think it will happen again?" he asked quietly. Elena looked at the water, watching it shimmer. "If it does, we'll listen this time. The core doesn't hate us. It just wants us to remember who we are." Suddenly, the ground beneath the lake pulsed once, softly, like a greeting. Elena smiled and whispered, "We remember." The light in the lake brightened for a few seconds, forming shapes, symbols from the old guardians, glowing faintly, as if saying thank you. Then the glow faded, and the world returned to silence. In the years that followed, humanity continued to honor that promise. Every school taught the story of the day Earth's core spoke of vengeance. Every monument carried the same line carved in stone. When the world speaks, listen. And deep within the core, beneath layers of stone and time, the ancient consciousness rested in peace. For the first time in ages, it no longer felt pain or fury. It felt trust. Because now, it remembered them too.